Did Eve eat an apple? Were there three kings at the Nativity? Was Jonah swallowed by a whale? Well, what if I told you literally none of that is actually in the Bible? Welcome to this explainer. We are counting down 10 things you absolutely think are in the scriptural text, but, spoiler alert, really aren't.
Seriously, did Eve actually eat an apple? I mean, it is easily the most famous piece of fruit in human history, right? But what we so often accept as absolute, unquestionable biblical truth is actually just centuries of cultural lore. So let's get right into our fast-paced countdown.
Okay, let's dive into this. Myths from the beginning. Genesis misconceptions.
So, Western art has almost universally depicted Eve taking a bite out of an apple. But if you look at Genesis 3:6, it merely describes her eating some fruit. The original Hebrew uses the supergeneric word peri, and the early Latin just used fructus. The text completely avoids the word apple. So yeah, you can stop blaming that red delicious sitting in your fridge for the fall of mankind.
So why do we all automatically picture an apple? Honestly, it comes down to a simple translation pun. See, in Latin, the word malum means apple, but mullum means evil. Early scholars and artists totally leaned into this homophonic pun, and it literally changed our global visual view of Eden forever. Crazy, right?
Now let's challenge another massive Genesis assumption. We're always taught that Eve was made from Adam's rib, but Genesis 2:21 actually says she was made from his side. The whole tradition of the rib doesn't even come from the original Hebrew text. It originated much, much later, appearing as a mistranslation in Jerome's Latin Vulgate. He basically shifted the Greek word for side into the Latin word for rib.
Now, what's really interesting here is looking at the original Hebrew. The word selah translates directly to side, and God made Eve to be an ezer knegedo, which translates to a sustainer or an equivalent. The absolutely crucial point here is that the original wording places the woman in a relationship with the man of complete equality. She was created as an equal counterpart from his side, not as some subservient afterthought made from a tiny bone.
Moving right along, prophets and wise men, misunderstood messengers.
Okay, despite what pop culture, or let's be real, VeggieTales taught you, the Bible never specifically says it was a whale that swallowed our runaway prophet Jonah. The original Hebrew dog gadol and the Greek kados simply mean great fish. It was actually the King James translation of Matthew 12:40 that cemented this entire zoological myth by using the specific English word whale. Now we are about to completely shatter the classic nativity scene illusion. We all sing, "We three kings," right? But Matthew chapter 2 never actually says there were three kings. It only tells us there were three gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The text just mentions an unspecified number of magi, basically astrologers. And to top it all off, they arrived much later, when Jesus, Mary, and Joseph had already moved into a house. No manger in sight for the wise men.
Next up, fake biblical proverbs, sounds holy, but isn't.
Get ready to have your mind blown with these. Cleanliness is next to godliness? Yeah, nowhere in Scripture. That was popularized by a John Wesley sermon. What about God works in mysterious ways? Not a verse. That's actually a William Cowper hymn, though let's be honest, most of us just know it from Bono and the band U2. And then there's the biggest one. God helps those who help themselves. Benjamin Franklin actually popularized this one in Poor Richard's Almanac, borrowing from ancient Greek tragedies.
But here's the thing. The crucial point is that God helps those who help themselves doesn't just sound secular. It actively contradicts the core biblical message. Romans 5:8 teaches that while we were still sinners and entirely unable to help ourselves, Christ died for us. Grace is exactly the opposite of helping yourself.
Section 4. Misquoted and misunderstood. Context is everything. Almost everyone on the planet has heard the phrase, "money is the root of all evil." But 1 Timothy 6:10 actually says the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. By missing that key psychological modifier, the love of, and by making a syntactical error that changes a root to the root, we completely change the entire biblical theology of wealth.
And this brilliantly illustrates something about the original Greek text. The word used here is philargyria, which specifically means the love of money, or greed. The biblical text is actively targeting human greed and the unhealthy attachment to wealth. It is not condemning the physical currency itself.
Okay, here is another incredibly common phrase. God won't give you more than you can handle. This is a super well-meaning comfort phrase, I get it, but it's totally unbiblical. 1 Corinthians 10:13 is actually about God providing a way out of temptation. It is not a blanket promise that you'll be able to endure all of life's intense traumas entirely on your own strength. To prove this, let's just look at Paul's own words in 2 Corinthians 1:8. He literally writes that they were under pressure far beyond our ability to endure. The text clearly shows that God absolutely does allow people to face things they cannot handle, precisely so they learn to rely on Him instead of themselves.
Moving to our final thematic section, biblical mistaken identities, character defamation.
Pop culture and, frankly, centuries of tradition have painted Mary Magdalene as a repentant prostitute. But according to Luke 8:2, Mary of Magdala was actually a wealthy financial patroness who traveled with Jesus after being cured of demonic possession. There is absolutely zero scriptural evidence connecting her to prostitution, none.
So why in the world does this stigma even exist? Well, in the first century, she was known purely as a patroness. But fast forward to 591 CE, and Pope Gregory I delivered a sermon where he completely conflated three distinct biblical women into a single composite archetype. Basically, one single homiletical error created an enduring cultural myth that has lasted all the way to this day.
All right, prepare for a massive pattern interrupt for our final myth. We are constantly told that Lucifer is Satan's original pre-fall name, but the text of Isaiah 14:12 is actually referring to the human king of Babylon. The name Lucifer is literally never used as a proper name for the devil anywhere in the original Hebrew text. Let's see how this builds, because the original Hebrew here is Halel bin Shahar, which is actually an astronomical metaphor addressing the morning star. It was just a poetic way to mock the massive hubris of a human king. But later on, the Latin Vulgate literalized this metaphor into the word Lucifer. So they basically created a massive theological myth out of what was originally just some poetic ancient trash talk.
The ultimate surprising takeaway. Why this matters.
We've covered 10 massive misconceptions today, but synthesizing all of this brings us to the ultimate surprising takeaway. It proves exactly why biblical literacy and separating verifiable historical truth from cultural tradition is so absolutely crucial. I mean, if tradition got all of this wrong, what else is waiting to be discovered in the text? There is so much more to uncover when we actually look at what's written. So, if you want to find out what else you've been missing, hit that subscribe button for the Let's Learn Bible channel right now, because part 2 is coming, and trust me, it will change the way you read the text forever.